Welcome to another exciting video from Marvelous Videos. I'm your host, Tia Ayer. 90s underrated vampire horror. The Addiction, 1995 explored. Abel Ferrara has always been revered for his layered depiction of horror tropes. The more the viewer delves into the themes, the more value they can derive from it. Now imagine spinning the trope of blood-sucking vampires to symbolize something far greater. How could it be? Vampires have been a symbol of human desires taken to an extreme, whether it be the need to be immortal or justifying immortal acts under the umbrella of uncontrollable lust, or here, bloodlust. But what more can Ferrara push the viewers to see? While he was applauded for his work, like Bad Lieutenant and The Funeral, the film we discuss today is not as acclaimed. The Addiction is a film that presents Ferrara's perspective on numerous things by using vampires simply as a vehicle to do so. Watch on to find out what it is that he manages to put forth via this delicate yet grotesque portrayal. And who knows, maybe Christopher Walken himself might make an appearance in this film. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. The dark is their sunlight. The Addiction, 1995. Kathleen, often referred to as Kathy, is a postgraduate student pursuing philosophy. Her friend Jean and she are required to see tapes of war and wide-scale killings and draw philosophical inferences from them for the sake of their dissertations. They both are sitting and watching such old war footage wherein a single individual had been punished for being the puppet who pulled the trigger, but not those who pull the strings. Right away, this first scene sets the tone for the film, wherein Ferrara has began planting seeds of doubt and needs to question authority structure and even morals. Right after the two friends part ways to go home when Kathy is pushed against the wall by a well-dressed lady who asks Kathy to tell her to stop, like she means it. Kathy is unable to do so, who is played by actor Annabella Shora, proceeds to bite her neck and sucks her blood. Kathleen is left dumbfounded and in pain. She is taken to the hospital for aid where she is told she's lucky that she's alive by a snarky policeman. These small biting comments showcase how society treats its victims, truly without an ounce of sympathy. Post this incident, Kathy realizes that she now craves blood herself. Unable to restrain herself, she carries a syringe to draw blood from an unconscious homeless man. Once this blood is injected into her system, there is almost no coming back. Her reflection fades from the mirror and she begins wearing sunglasses during the day. Her worldview begins to shift during this period of ugly metamorphosis. Kathy then even manages to seduce her philosophy professor and bring him home, thereby converting him into a vampire as well. Her friend Jean begins to notice changes in her appearance and asks if she is unwell. Kathy does not answer her properly and leaves for the library. Here she encounters another one of her victims who she befriends. This young girl unwittingly invites Kathy over, resulting in her being bitten as well. By this point, Kathy has given up the syringe. This shift is also one that is important, as we will discuss later. Later, Kathy engages in a conversation with Jean, wherein she asks her about the nature of guilt and sin. She rambles on about how humans have been immortal since the beginning of time, and they will carry forth this guilt to the future as well. After this rambling conversation, Kathy, who has up to this point abstained from harming Jean, bites her as well. She says her signature comment and asks Jean to tell her to stop like she means it. Jean is unable to produce the words and simply says, "Please let go," instead. This asking for consent in a warped way possibly portrayed the draw of evil, that even in the face of harm, people were unable to refuse with conviction. Kathy approaches a man at night who himself says, "Why don't you tell me to leave you alone like you mean it?" which are the words similar to what Kathy says to her victims. Kathy smiles, recognizing him as one of them, this man who goes by Pena, who is played by none other than Christopher Walken. Walken invites Kathy home and tells her that he is a 40-year-old vampire, and he manages to control his desires by fasting and can blend into society. He differentiates between Kathy and himself, saying she knows nothing. He tells her he will show her what hunger really means. The scene shifts to Pena, leisurely walking in his house, as Kathy lies bleeding on the bed as she has been bitten. He tells her that she is a slave to her desire, unlike him, who has restraint. He goes on to quote big philosophers like Burroughs as Kathy writhes in pain. Kathy manages to escape Pena's house and is by this point desperate for blood. She falls to the ground upon being unable to find someone, and when a man who spots her approaches her to help, she immediately attacks him. Here, she does not even give him the option to ask her to stop. Her disease and desperation can be seen to be taking over her entirely. Soon, Kathy manages to finish her dissertation by presenting her cynical worldview as part of it. She gets a doctorate, and after the ceremony, she invites her dean to a small party she is throwing for herself. This party soon devolves into a bloodfest wherein all vampires begin attacking all people present with no restraint. Kathy feeds on numerous people, and all of her victims who have now turned into perpetrators are doing the same. The first vampire, played by Shora, is also present at this party. This gruesome bloodbath ends with Kathy throwing up blood. She leaves to go outside, where she collapses. Kathy gains consciousness in a hospital and cries in her hospital bed. She asks the nurse to open the blinders during the day. This is her attempt to kill herself, but it's stopped by Shora's character. She quotes Dante and says, "It's not that easy." Continues to expand on the philosophy of sin in humans. The movie ends with Kathy seeking forgiveness from God as a priest comes to speak to her at the hospital bed. The last scene is one of Kathy walking up to her own grave in broad daylight, leaving the viewers to interpret her death or rebirth as human. She concludes by saying, "Self-revelation is annihilation of self." Blood-sucking vampire. Ferrara's blood-sucking and philosophy-spouting vampires present an allegory of addiction. It is a portrayal that is intricate and nuanced. We can see this by the way in which the movie progresses. The inability of victims to deny consent due to the lure of evil showcases how it is difficult to refuse drugs. Moreover, initially, Kathy uses syringes and exercises some restraint, which little by little is lost. The same trajectory can be observed in drug users. The desperation of needing a fix when dependent on the drug is highlighted by Kathy upon leaving Pena's house to attack the first passerby. Pena's exploration of being a slave to one's own desire as well as the need to control and exercise willpower indicates the tightrope all addicts have to walk across daily to avoid a relapse. The final scene of the Bloodfest can be seen as a drug overdose, followed by guilt as expressed by Kathy in the hospital. Farrah's well-dressed and well-spoken vampires also presented the victim-turned-perpetrator trope. It explores the ideology of hurt people hurt people. Moreover, vampires will always be portrayed as charismatic yet pretentious know-it-alls. This film simply pushes this to the extreme by allowing its vampires to indulge and converse in philosophical theories. Why should you watch The Addiction? The Addiction is an unsettling story that can be enjoyed on two levels. First is the story of vampires, and the second as an allegory of addiction. While a student or philosophy might derive more pleasure from the script and mention of famous philosophers, yet other viewers can enjoy the film regardless. The cynicism about the world and themes such as religion, guilt, and repentance are all wonderfully explored in the film. Ferrara provides the otherwise two-dimensional, blood-sucking vampires a depth that other filmmakers have failed to provide. An older veteran vampire like Pena guided a young vampire like Kathleen is dynamic that has rarely been shown in classic vampire films. This dynamic provided for a thoroughly exciting sequence. This black and white film that was shot in just 20 days has become a film that splits the room into those that hate it and those that love it. It is a must-watch just to find out which side one allies oneself with. And if you like our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us. If you haven't already, have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.